What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and today I'm comparing two of my favorite lifestyle sneakers, the AirMax 720 to the Ultraboost 19. For years, the Ultraboost has been one of my favorite lifestyle sneakers on the market because of how comfortable it is and how good it looked. And then Adidas released the Ultraboost 19, and at first, I just didn't like it. They definitely went for a more performance-based aesthetic with the 19, and while I don't think it's an ugly sneaker, it just doesn't have those same really beautiful lines that the Ultraboost 1.0 through 4.0 had. But when I actually got this sneaker in hand and put it on my feet, I was blown away by how comfortable it was. They had made so many performance improvements on the upper, on the midfoot cage, on the heel counter, and even the boost by adding 20% more boost. This sneaker was noticeably more comfortable than previous Ultraboosts. So because of the comfort improvements, I've been able to look past what I consider an aesthetic downgrade, and this has become one of my most worn sneakers of 2019. I know it's only been like 3 weeks, but I've worn this sneaker almost every day. But on February 1st, a challenger appears, a Nike lifestyle sneaker that's designed to take away the throne from the Ultraboost, and that sneaker is the AirMax 720. I got the 720 about a week early and have been wearing it almost every day, and I've also dropped a review on it, so if you want to know my more in-depth thoughts about this sneaker, make sure to click the link at the top of the screen. But after wearing the 720 for about a week, there's a lot of things that I really like about this sneaker, and a couple things that I don't. So why don't we jump into those pros and cons and also compare it to the Ultraboost 19. Let's start things off with visuals because that's the first impression that you get when you see a sneaker. The Ultraboost 19 is obviously designed to be a performance-based sneaker, and while it's not an ugly sneaker, it's definitely not the most attractive in my opinion. I don't like this mesh midfoot cage, I don't like this sort of outline of a heel counter, and the way that they changed up the primeknit pattern just doesn't look as good as previous versions. But with that being said, it's not a bad looking sneaker overall. It's still got a very sleek silhouette, which I really like, and because of the relatively neutral colorways they've dropped this sneaker in, it's pretty easy to rock with almost any outfit. The AirMax 720 is specifically designed for lifestyle wear. In fact, Nike even said that this is one of the only AirMaxes ever made to only be designed for lifestyle and not for performance wear. On this first release colorway of the sneaker, you've got this sort of dark purple mesh, which has this nice sort of glow to it. Accenting the upper, you've got this sort of boomerang-shaped iridescent purple TPU ring that surrounds this mesh panel. I don't think they look bad, but they definitely give the shoe sort of a futuristic, organic look. Below that, you've got this sort of sparkly iridescent purple accent that sort of morphs into this giant air bubble. Personally, overall, I think that the 720 is more attractive than the Ultraboost 19, and that's because I think it's a slightly more cohesive look. Everything is designed to work together and look clean together, whereas the Ultraboost 19, although it doesn't look bad, there's definitely a lot of accents that feel tacked on. So even though this sort of organic, futuristic look of the 720 might not be for everyone, and let me just stress, if you don't like it, don't buy it, I feel like it's got a much more cohesive look than the 19, and I think it's just a better looking sneaker overall. And now moving into comfort, which is probably what most people are interested in, let's find out which one feels better on foot. As I've already mentioned, the AirMax 720 is a very lifestyle driven sneaker. It's not designed to be run in, it's not designed to be hiked in, it's just designed for everyday wear, maybe going down to the local grocery store or hanging out with friends. And that's made pretty obvious when you look at this giant, oversized, thick air bubble. This is not something I'd want to put a lot of pressure or stress on because it feels like it could pop relatively easily. The air bubble wraps pretty much all the way around the shoe, and if you look at the bottom of the sneaker, you can see it's pretty much only on the outside ring. The way I would describe the feeling of this air bubble is like a more stable VaporMax. Because it wraps all the way around the foot, it doesn't feel unstable in places like the VaporMax did, and because it's so thick, you really almost get a bounce back in your step. One thing I do have to bring up is that walking in this sneaker does sort of have a learning curve, which surprised me. Because this air bubble is just so thick, and because it's pulled so far out from the heel, it hits the ground a little bit sooner than your heel usually would, and because of that, you almost have to take longer strides. It was something that really took me by surprise when I first started wearing the sneaker, but as I wore this shoe over the week, I kind of stopped noticing it. I will say though, that's definitely a problem for me and something that I didn't like about this shoe. The rest of the upper is pretty comfortable and fits true to size. The mesh upper isn't very breathable and it can get hot over time, and not only that, it also isn't very flexible. Like if you like the feel of a knit, like a fly knit or a prime knit, this upper isn't going to give you anywhere close to the sort of give that those knits provide. It's definitely a more traditional feeling upper, especially with the separate tongue, and that's not a bad thing, and it's something that you probably have in just about all of your other shoes, but when comparing it to something like the Ultraboost, you can definitely tell a difference. And honestly, the fit of the 720 and the overall feel of the upper feels just like a regular AirMax, and probably like a lot of the sneakers in your collection. Moving over to the Ultraboost 19, the difference in upper is night and day. Keep in mind though that the Ultraboost 19 is a more performance-driven sneaker, so because of that, they cared less about aesthetics and more about overall comfort and feel. The full-length Boost midsole midsole on the Ultraboost 19 is incredibly comfortable, and because it covers the entirety of your foot, it feels a lot more stable. Over time, it can compress a little bit and feel a tiny bit mushy, especially if you're using the sneaker for running. But even with that, Boost is still one of my favorite cushioning setups available, and it's one of the most comfortable. Also, you don't have to worry about the Boost popping if you step on a nail or like hit a curb wrong. The upper of the sneaker is covered completely in primeknit, which is very stretchy and very breathable. I will say that this shoe is colder than the 720, so if you're wearing a sneaker out in the winter, maybe the 720 might be a better choice. But for overall comfort, this upper is incredible. It hugs your foot like a sock, and because it's like the 5th generation of primeknit, they've really figured out how to create a shoe that hugs your foot in the right spots and allows your foot to move in the right spots. So between these two shoes, if I had to pick one based purely on comfort, I would go with the Ultraboost. The last thing that I want to cover in this video is price, and that's sort of an easy comparison because they both cost 180 bucks. So which shoe is best really comes down to your own personal preferences. If you value comfort over everything else, the Ultraboost 19 is the way to go. If you love the way the 720 looks and aren't looking for a performance sneaker, this is a great way to go, and it's a pretty comfortable shoe as well. But that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the 720 and the Ultraboost 19. Now I would love to know your thoughts on these sneakers and which one you would actually consider buying, so make sure to leave those comments in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe down below if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.